Story 1. A story from the time I spent working in a kitchen. It was a restaurant right next to a music venue, and we got busy on concert weekends, but during the off-season, it could get quiet with just a few regulars. We had music nights, and the bar was usually serving drinks until close, so we would be open all year. During a quiet late fall day after doing cleaning and checking dates, we had some apples that needed to be used for something before they got mealy. I used the opportunity to work on my pie recipe. We usually didn't do pies, so it was a change of pace, and it kept me busy so I would not be forced to scrub some unused corner. Pie was great, and the head chef said it was one of the best he had ever tasted. He even took one home to eat. Kitchen closes, and we clean everything and break down our stations, put dates on our stuff, and throw it in the walk-in. I get to the point I could wait out the last 10 minutes at the bar. It is 5 minutes to close. I am waiting for my ride home. In walk the entitled customers. 2 people for drinks at 10:55 isn't unusual. They are told we are closing soon. They say, "We want food." I stand up. "I'm sorry, the kitchen is closed, and the line cooks have gone home. We can't serve food." "I thought this was a restaurant?" The guy in the leather jacket sneers. "We have some apple pie I made myself. I can serve that if you want dessert. No charge." I was using my best customer service to get the bartender a good tip. "We want real food," the woman in the fur replies indignantly. "Then you should have come in before 10. Bar is now closed. Get out," my bartender friend says unceremoniously and starts turning off lights. I walk to the kitchen taking their cue and turn the lights off. I was in the walk-in when I heard the guy follow me into the now dark kitchen and say, "Seriously?" The bartender says, "No, that's not the door out, and I can't have you in the kitchen. Please leave the way you came in." Bartender starts printing end-of-night credit card reports. To someone unfamiliar with the kitchen, it must have looked like I walked through the door and vanished. The couple stomped out of the bar, and I poked my head out of the fridge to turn off the parking lot lights, letting them go to their car in darkness. Later, when the bartender drove me home, they told me that that couple has only been there a few times, has never tipped, and argued the bill with the owner on more than one occasion. She had always wanted to kick them out, but when they refused free dessert to try and get food an hour after the kitchen had closed, and were so rude about it, she finally had her opportunity. The 2 of them never came back while I was working there. The bartender and I ate pie at her house and laughed about it. Story 2. I want to start by saying that I don't think I was in the wrong here. This happened more than 20 years ago, but recently the guy involved reached out, and the topic came up again. Before my health took a turn for the worse, I worked in a food factory. At one point, I was transferred for a while to the late shift, which ran from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. On our way home one night, my friend at the time asked if we could stop by a government housing estate because a friend of his had something he was owed. Trying to be a nice guy, I agreed. The moment I pulled up, my gut told me something was off. This was the rough part of the neighborhood. He then told me to park in a spot across the road so I wouldn't attract attention and risk getting my car stolen. I was already uneasy, but he reassured me, saying he'd only be 2 minutes. He went up to the house, and a few minutes later, he came running back and jumped into the back seat of my car. Now, I don't remember the exact conversation, but this is the best I can recall. "Thanks, man, I'm all sorted now," he said. I heard rustling in a bag he hadn't been carrying when he left the car. Almost immediately, I smelled something strong, though I had no clue what it was. At the time, I had zero knowledge about illegal substances apart from the prescription medication I was taking. "Mate, close that bag. It reeks, and I'm taking my mom shopping in the morning," I told him. "Just give me 2 minutes," he replied. "No, mate, now, I don't want my car stinking of whatever that is." Then, to my absolute horror, he lit up. I lost it instantly. This was my first car, and I had a strict rule: no eating or drinking while the car was moving, and absolutely no smoking, ever, since I was a non-smoker. "What on earth, man? No smoking in my car," I snapped. "Chill out, it's just some strong stuff," he said casually. That was the moment I slammed on the brakes. "Get out of my car, now." "But we're not at my house yet," he protested. "I don't care. No smoking in my car, and that includes anything like that." He grumbled as he got out, annoyed that he now had to walk half a mile home. I didn't care. I left him there, drove straight home, and sprayed nearly an entire can of fabric freshener all over the interior of my car. The smell was masked for a few days, but it took over a week to completely get rid of it. At the time, I had only been driving for a year, and the local traffic police were notoriously strict. They would pull you over for the smallest thing. I once dropped someone off at a pub, never even stepped out of my car, and still got asked to take a breathalyzer test. So, I was beyond worried that if I got pulled over, they would smell what had been in my car and assume the worst. Recently, that same guy showed up at my house out of the blue. I hadn't seen him in years, so I was already skeptical about why he was there. As soon as I opened the door, he got straight to the point. "Hey, can you give me a ride to the next town over?" I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "That's where my supplier is now, and my car's busted," he said, as if it was the most normal request in the world. I stared at him for a moment, trying to process the sheer nerve of it. After everything that had happened before, he still thought I'd be up for that? "Absolutely not," I said, without hesitation. "Come on, man, it's just a quick trip," he tried again. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I just told him to get lost and shut the door in his face. That was the last time I ever saw him. No regrets. Story 3. I want to start by saying that I don't think I was in the wrong here. This happened more than 20 years ago, but recently the guy involved reached out, and the topic came up again. Before my health took a turn for the worse, I worked in a food factory. At one point, I was transferred for a while to the late shift, which ran from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. On our way home one night, my friend at the time asked if we could stop by a government housing estate because a friend of his had something he was owed. Trying to be a nice guy, I agreed. The moment I pulled up, my gut told me something was off. This was the rough part of the neighborhood. He then told me to park in a spot across the road so I wouldn't attract attention and risk getting my car stolen. I was already uneasy, but he reassured me, saying he'd only be 2 minutes. He went up to the house, and a few minutes later, he came running back and jumped into the back seat of my car. Now, I don't remember the exact conversation, but this is the best I can recall. "Thanks, man, I'm all sorted now," he said. I heard rustling in a bag he hadn't been carrying when he left the car. Almost immediately, I smelled something strong, though I had no clue what it was. At the time, I had zero knowledge about illegal substances apart from the prescription medication I was taking. "Mate, close that bag. It reeks, and I'm taking my mom shopping in the morning," I told him. "Just give me 2 minutes," he replied. "No, mate, now. I don't want my car stinking of whatever that is." Then, to my absolute horror, he lit up. I lost it instantly. This was my first car, and I had a strict rule: no eating or drinking while the car was moving and absolutely no smoking, ever, since I was a non-smoker. "What on earth, man? No smoking in my car," I snapped. "Chill out, it's just some strong stuff," he said casually. That was the moment I slammed on the brakes. "Get out of my car, now." "But we're not at my house yet," he protested. "I don't care. No smoking in my car, and that includes anything like that." He grumbled as he got out, annoyed that he now had to walk half a mile home. I didn't care. I left him there, drove straight home, and sprayed nearly an entire can of fabric freshener all over the interior of my car. The smell was masked for a few days, but it took over a week to completely get rid of it. At the time, I had only been driving for a year, and the local traffic police were notoriously strict. They would pull you over for the smallest thing. I once dropped someone off at a pub, never even stepped out of my car, and still got asked to take a breathalyzer test. So, I was beyond worried that if I got pulled over, they would smell what had been in my car and assume the worst. Recently, that same guy showed up at my house out of the blue. I hadn't seen him in years, so I was already skeptical about why he was there. As soon as I opened the door, he got straight to the point. "Hey, can you give me a ride to the next town over?" I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "That's where my supplier is now, and my car's busted," he said, as if it was the most normal request in the world. I stared at him for a moment, trying to process the sheer nerve of it. After everything that had happened before, he still thought I'd be up for that? "Absolutely not," I said, without hesitation. "Come on, man. It's just a quick trip," he tried again. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I just told him to get lost and shut the door in his face. That was the last time I ever saw him. No regrets. Story 4. So, a bit of backstory first. I am a 25-year-old woman, and I have about 5 different medical issues affecting my left foot and ankle. I suffer from 3 types of tendinitis and have 2 joints in my foot with osteoarthritis. Additionally, I had surgery on this ankle about 2.5 years ago. As a result, I experience significant pain and have a very noticeable limp. I am in pain almost every single day, and currently, there is not much I can do to alleviate it. If anyone were to compare my ankles side by side, they would instantly notice that my left ankle is noticeably larger, especially on bad days when it swells to nearly twice its normal size. Cast. Me myself. Karen, elderly woman. Nice employee, store employee who stepped in. On to the story. This happened just last night after work. I work 10-hour shifts, and my time is spent either entirely on my feet or sitting for long periods, depending on how busy the day is. Yesterday was particularly hectic, so I was standing and walking the entire shift. By the time I finished work, my pain level was about a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. I had to stop at the grocery store to pick up some vegetables for dinner, so I made my way through the store slowly to avoid any sharp, shooting pains in my foot and ankle. Suddenly, an elderly woman, who I will refer to as Karen, stopped me and said, "Karen, I just can't stand your generation. All you people do is fake injuries so you don't have to work. Your limp isn't real, get over yourself." I was completely exhausted, and I honestly did not care what she thought. I just wanted to finish shopping, go home, and ice my ankle. Me, okay? I tried to walk away. However, Karen was not done yet. She walked up behind me, pretended to stumble, and then deliberately kicked my left ankle. Karen, oops, sorry. The pain was instant and unbearable. I yelped and, in that moment, was both furious and in agony. Tears filled my eyes as I turned around to face her. Me. Okay, look at my ankles. Do you notice the difference in their sizes? I am actually in a lot of pain. I just finished a 10-hour shift where I was on my feet the entire time, and I have multiple injuries in this leg. Karen's face twisted into a shocked expression, as if she had not expected me to react. Karen, well, how was I supposed to know that? Me. You weren't, because we don't know each other, but you decided to make my condition your business by accusing me of faking it and then kicking me. At this point, a store employee, who had heard my yelp and the commotion, walked over to us. Nice employee. What seems to be the issue here? Me. I was accused of faking an injury because, apparently, my generation is awful. Then this woman kicked my bad leg. Karen, she's faking it. You can tell she can walk just fine. I didn't mean to kick her, I just stumbled, and it happened. Nice employee turning to me, would you like me to call the police so you can file a report? Karen's face went pale, and she immediately started stuttering, trying to explain herself. Me. No, I just want this lady to leave me alone so I can finish shopping and go home. Karen kept trying to argue her case, but instead of getting anywhere, she was kicked out of the store. As for me, I received a discount on my groceries. There is no dramatic ending to this story. I chose not to file a report because I was in too much pain and just wanted to lie down. I see a lot of people suggesting that I should have pressed charges. However, I have no plans to do so. The police in my town are generally unhelpful and ineffective, and I genuinely believe there's a high chance they would have taken her side simply because of my age. Additionally, the grocery store I was in did not have any security cameras, so there would have been no footage to back up my claim. On top of that, I can't even remember the woman's face clearly, nor do I recall if I ever heard her name. Fortunately, I don't think she caused any further injury to my ankle. When I woke up this morning, there was no additional bruising, and the swelling had gone down compared to the night before. Story 5. Alright, so to start off, I'm a US Navy sailor, and because of COVID, we aren't supposed to go to restaurants, bars, or such places with large gatherings. So I decided I'd go to the store real quick for groceries and go back to base because I had just gotten off duty. Now I changed out of my uniform and into my civilian clothes and got into my car and just drove normally to Walmart. Then to this place called the Fresh Market, which I hadn't been to or heard of before. It's expensive. Now here's where it picks up. There's going to be me, Whack Karen. Then Whack Karen's husband will be Kevin, and the cool manager. So I walked into the store in my work boots, which were very dirty and had a lot of cuts and missing pieces of leather off the boot, so they're rough but sturdy. I had black slacks because I was just getting groceries and threw them on. I had a turtleneck on under it and my hoodie over that with Aviation Machinist Mate on the back of my hoodie. The front had a propeller and wings, which are our rates. Rate is what we call a job symbol. I'm looking for coffee and filters along with a gift for my girlfriend when I get back to base to make her day a little better. I also need to get milk and basic stuff for meals. At this moment, I'm in the milk or freezer area of the store, looking at all the different milks that I never knew existed and looking around at foreign foods and candies that are imported. Cool stuff. Then a lady who is looking at something behind me, I think, walked over as she was much shorter than I am. Probably around 5'2". I happen to be 6 foot and with my boots that just added on. Karen, could you grab me the green candy and then that coffee on the left? So I grab it and give it to her and think nothing of it, because she just seemed nice and I was helping no grab something. Then I go back to get the milk I chose. I grab coffee and then the filters. I'm not wearing a giant green apron or khaki pants or a shirt with Fresh Market on it, so I'm not in uniform military or Fresh Market standard. Now I'm standing in line because only one register was open and there were only 2 people in front of me. Then the lady I helped came up behind it and cleared her throat, as to get my attention when I was on my phone responding to my brother since he got his Christmas gift early, and I'd want to see him open it since I won't be there to see him open it. Karen, why don't you go open the other register? I was not paying attention to her. Excuse me? Hello, you may have gotten off, but you can still speed this line up. I have somewhere to be. Just realizing she's talking to me as no one else is around us, I say, sorry? Oh, I don't work here, ma'am. Well, you helped me, and you were moving things around earlier. I had been looking at different milk and other items because it was all pretty cool, and I had never seen such a diverse selection of anything in that amount for milk, coffee, bubblegum, or anything before. Oh yeah, I helped you grab the 2 items you got earlier, right? Yes, so why don't you help me again and go open that register? So at this point, I was confused as to why and how she could have thought I worked there. Wearing nothing like the uniform there, and also wearing a few items that clearly stated I was in the military, including a belt buckle with my rate, and a mask that literally has US Navy written on it. Sorry, I can't, ma'am, I don't work here. I didn't just get off. I'm here shopping for groceries. Then I raise my basket and try to act kind again by smiling under my mask, and then I turn back around. Karen, I know you work here. I've seen you before. You have the exact same haircut as last month. So I had noticed that a few guys there did have the same haircut, and I realized because I am only 19. I'm also the same age as all the workers except one guy who ended up being the manager. Ma'am, I can assure you I don't. This is my first time being in the store. I'm not even from this state, and I'm in the US Navy. Then I point to my mask, my hoodie, my boots, and my belt buckle, and all of them have something that show I definitely don't work at the fresh market, and I'm an enlisted man in the Navy. I've seen you before, and I know you work here. If you lie again, I will tell the manager. Your generation is so disrespectful and lazy. I don't see how you maintain a job here or any of you. Now I have respect for retail because I worked at a CVS for almost 3 years when I was in high school until I was 17 and finally enlisted. Also, this lady was probably 23, maximum. She looked younger than my girlfriend, but I think her height had something to do with it. Listen, lady, I'm trying to check out and leave. I don't work here and never have. I don't see what the issue is. Now the man in front of me was very old, and he had many items to purchase, so this was going to take a while, which was fine, but she was making it hell. Karen, I'm not a lady, I'm a man, good God. I know you're not in the Navy because I come here every week, and I've seen you here for the past month. Now go open the register and check me out, or I'll get the manager because we're good friends, and I can have him send you home for the rest of the week. Also, my husband is a general in the Navy, so what you're doing is disrespecting him, and me because that's stolen valor. Ma'am, I apologize, but I do not work here. Also, we do not have generals in the Navy. We have admirals. Well, if you really wanted this, just know it's your fault for not doing your job. She walks over to the man without an apron, and they turn to face away after she's done speaking, and then he walks over to speak to me. Cool manager, sir, did you tell this woman you work here? No, sir, I've been telling her over and over that I do not work here and I never have. Well, I haven't seen you before, and I have seen you working here before, but she also says you're impersonating a Navy soldier. No, sir, I'm a Navy sailor, and she says her husband is a general, but we don't have generals in the Navy. We have admirals like I told her, and yet she still goes on to say I need to check her out. Do you have a military identification? This isn't to prove anything against you. I just want to make sure because we offer military discounts and using those to your benefit is a crime. So I take my CSC card out, which is also my military ID. A CSC is a common access card, by the way. Then he checks it for a second and flips it over and then hands it back. I apologize, sir. She just said you were too young to be in the military, and you were just getting off work because you were helping her, and she said she wants to call the police for stolen valor, I think. She can call the police and I'll wait here. I haven't told her anything that would make her think I work here or that I'm not in the military. I just got off duty as well, so I'm free for the rest of the day. So the lady does call the police, and while we wait, the lady is explaining how she's going to have me arrested and have her husband come and tell the police I'm faking because he can tell. So the police arrive after only 5-10 minutes, and they're talking to me. I showed them my CSC, and the two talking to me were very nice and formal, plus one was in the army before he was a cop. Then the one talking to the Karen came over and told us she had her husband coming here to prove it. But they had no reason to stay or detain me, and if anything, have her removed for harassment towards me. Then the cop who was ex-army suggested I stay and talk to him because some wives feel entitled, and I should see who the officer is so I can ask them for their view, and maybe talk to my chain of command if I have to. Then the police leave and I'm there waiting with the manager, who probably felt very awkward. Mainly because the Karen was still explaining how the police must not know what a military ID looks like, also they just didn't arrest me because I wasn't in a uniform, etc. Then her husband gets there. Oh boy. So with the military in any branch, there is something called DEP if you didn't know. Now DEP is the Delayed Entry Program, which means you've signed a contract for a branch. However, you haven't left for boot camp, and you're not technically any rank or in the military yet. You have your contract signed, but you can still get out if you whine enough. Karen, honey, babe, explained to this man why he should have this boy arrested. I'm not a boy, I'm just young. I'm 19 at 6 foot. I am pale, which might make me look younger. I don't know, and I have a high school kid's haircut. Her husband, oh, so you're the guy impersonating a military service member. I'm just a service member. Also, your wife told me you were a general in the Navy. This guy was wearing a brand new DEP shirt, by the way, so I was going to tear him up when I could. I am, yeah, so what's your rate and what's your rank? I'm in a D, and I'm a third-class petty officer. Her husband now looks a little different. Oh, so you're an E? Nothing really? You don't look old enough to be one. Sir, you realize being an admiral, you just violated the UCMJ, correct? Also, sir, would you mind allowing me to see your CSC? I didn't violate anything, and I don't have it with me. Carrying your CSC is part of the uniform code, because if you have nothing with you, no clothes, no shoes, no anything, you'd better have your CSC. Well, then you're going against the UCMJ, because here's my CSC. Also, you say I'm too young, but you're like 22 or 23, aren't you? No, I'm not. I'm not in uniform, and I'm a general in the Navy, not an admiral. So at this point, I was obviously mad. Also, when someone like this is trying to tell me off and say I'm not in the Navy with no evidence, along with me having my own proof, then they decide to impersonate an admiral or any rank in the Navy. I'm gonna get angry or angrier. Listen, you're in the DEP program. I know the recruiters at your office. You're not an officer, and if you don't leave right now, I will go to your recruiting office with a picture of you from this store, and I will have you charged against the UCMJ for impersonating an officer, stolen valor, also for wasting my time and everyone else's here. Karen and her husband both look confused, then her husband tries to speak. Well, I can, but I interrupt. If you're in the DEP program, as someone who outranks you and as a supervisor, you're going to go to your recruiting office tomorrow, and I'm going to be there, and I will explain what happened to them with the police proof, camera proof, the managers, and more. Then the husband leaves and Karen stays, buys her things and speaks to the manager, then leaves. Cool manager, she told me I should fire you. Also, I'm sorry you had to experience this, sir. Yeah, I think I'd want to be fired at this point. Also, it wasn't a big deal until she called the police. Her husband, however, is committing a crime doing that, though. Well, if you need any of the footage or anything of that nature, I can get the police back here. Oh no, I just want him to waste his time. I don't have time to go yell at a DEP guy. Thank you, though. Then I walk to the register finally after 2 hours, and the cool manager signs into the computer instead, and then lets me leave with like $70 worth of olives, coffee, filters, milk, etc., and my gift for my girlfriend, which was a giant candy cane and a weird chewy candy. Edit. I ended up visiting the recruiting office near my base, and I told the chief there and a friend of mine, who was working there who just made first class, so she's hopefully going to put him in his place. They knew exactly who I was talking about, and my friend was going to deal with him personally. The chief there also said they were thinking he wouldn't have a good time adapting as well, mainly because he's chosen to be a nuke. He was a private construction contractor, so I don't know how well that will end for him. Also still shocks me that he claimed to be a general in the Navy. Out of every branch. Navy, God. Edit 2. I have good news for you guys. Also more information on what this man did a while after he left. So Monday I went to the recruiting office to talk to a logistics specialist one, who was the person that called the Karen's husband into the recruiting office that day. I was called then and told to report there. Now I was making sure to be properly squared away and look good, shine my boots a little, a pair that was actually shined. And then I went out and I got in my car, and as I'm pulling up to the recruiting office, I see Karen. She's against a car on her phone, then opens the passenger door and gets in and shuts it. Now I had hoped I didn't get noticed because I didn't have time for her, and so I walked past. Nothing happens and I get inside. From there in the corner is the husband sitting down at a desk with the logistics specialist and is talking to her, while I salute the ensign and am called over by my friend. She sits me down and tells me, "We haven't yelled at him or anything so far, but his wife was getting mad because we called them in early and then chewed him out by saying he was late. Now the logistics specialist is talking to him about why he needs to be early, and he's asking why it's just him in here." Story 6. So I was looking, over listening for a second, and I had known my friend from my command, because I worked in the office she did before she went to recruiting duty, and I kinda took over her spot. Only temporarily, though, as the duty section leader since everyone was going on leave. Now comes an even better part. Me. That's awesome. But your chief called me in today. Was I called in because I told you about what happened, or is it so I can confirm it's him? My friend. Oh no, we want you to confront him since it's just me and the logistics specialist today. We're only in here for the muster and to clean a little before we go, but wanted him to come in before the 96. So then I'm trying to remember everything that was said. Then I have the best parts in my head for what I'm going to use against him. So I got up and my friend walked over with me to the desk, and I sat down next to my friend at the next desk. So this man, does he look familiar at all? Kevin looks over and looks back at the logistics specialist and doesn't seem to remember me because he just shook his head and said no. Oh, that's funny, because you told us that you caught a person committing stolen valor, which from you having told us his rate, how he looks, his tattoos, and what he was wearing, definitely reminds me of this guy. I have hand tattoos and I have the majority of my arms and other places. But he told them about my hand tattoos, and I had both that the logistics specialist fortunately wrote down and read back. So this guy, who is a D3 by the way, looks nothing like him. No petty officer, not at all. I've never seen this guy in my life. Me. That's actually pretty funny, considering you wasted 3 hours about of my time by calling the cops on me after your wife accused me of stolen valor and working at the fresh market. What? My wife doesn't go there? It's too expensive. He's right, it's too expensive. However, lying to all of us then, and they're pissed me off as a sign of disrespect. Not just to me, but my superiors, and I try to follow everything by the books if I can. So him doing that was what pulled my pin. Me. Well, I know you went there because you're wearing the exact same outfit. Same glasses. Same beard, same tattoo, and your voice sounds very familiar. The reason you're here today isn't for a meeting. It's for you accusing me of stolen valor, and you being the one to actually be called out for it. Kevin still didn't say anything or change, and my friend was at this point in a less happy chew this guy out mood, but more in a this guy is actually trying to lie his way out of this, and I'm going to murder him mood. My friend? So you can't remember the guy who called you out is, or what he looks like remotely, and a D3 says you match the exact shape, form, look and clothing of the same day you were out there saying this nonsense. Well, it could be him. His hair looks like it kinda, but his voice is too deep, and he has the same tattoos, but definitely not the same face. Me. I was wearing a mask. You weren't. I remember you because I could see it, and yet I kept mine on because I was in a store, and because being in the military, we're told and ordered to. Which also means you should be wearing one. Well, I only came in to help my wife when you started to yell at her. My friend and the logistics specialist both look at each other, and then the logistics specialist smiles, somewhat out of Kevin's view. You just confirmed that a D3 is the man who was there. Well, I just recognized him because of his boots and his wrist tattoo. My sleeves, if I can remember, were down at the store because it was cold, and also I don't like letting people see any of my tattoos. So the fact he can recognize one on my wrist instead of both of my hands was just mind-boggling. My friend, so you lied to us, lied to his face, then lied about him, and now you're lying again. Evan. Well, I'm not lying. I just didn't realize it was him. Plus, he was out of uniform when I saw him. Obviously, I was out of uniform. I don't like to go to the store and say I want to look good when I go out and go wearing my uniform, when you're not supposed to be in it in public, just to wear. You could stop to get groceries, but I wasn't even doing that. I just decided to go get a few things we wanted, and I'd try a new store to see what it was like. My friend. Wait, when you called, you said he was in his uniform impersonating a sailor. Well, I want to impersonating him as I'm wearing Navy stuff and also walking around with his boots on. Dude, you've just lied to us more times in 10 minutes than you would at MEPS in 8 hours. That was a favorite for me. Me. So you called the recruiting office to tell them I was impersonating a sailor when I am one. And you didn't bother to mention you said you were a general? The logistics specialist. General? Of the Navy? It's what his wife told me, and then he did. Yet all I can remember are admirals being in the Navy. Maybe it changed overnight. Kevin, I didn't say that. I just walked up and said you should take that off. Your wife yelled at me. I didn't yell at her. You never said to take anything off. You just called me a fake and told me to prove it. Then when I caught you in a lie of somehow being a 20-something-year-old general in the Navy, you denied it and called the cops. If you did this in my boots as an enlisted man, the UCMJ would have a field day with you, if you even know what that is. Yeah, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. My friend, shut up, stop talking. You are not staying in DEP, and we are making sure you can't go to the other branches because of this. You've done so much to mess your chances up that even a D3 gave you multiple. But I already signed my contract and enlisted. Yeah, and we can change that, because so far, it seems like you're against my Navy and against my sailors and my shipmates. So if you want to do that nonsense, you can do it on the civilian side. I haven't violated anything in the DEP rules, though. Well, harassing my sailors and accusing them for stolen valor violates what I've worked for and earned as a first class. And you're not a sailor, a D3 is, and he's earned his rank and title. You've only harassed him along with your wife. I can guarantee that nonsense would not have flown with a chief, and you'd most likely be arrested or going to court soon. And you haven't even gone to boot camp, so you wouldn't know some of the traditions any of us have faced so far. Me. I haven't even been through many myself, yet my friend here is a shellback. She's got her swallows. She's an example sailor. The logistics specialist? All right, so we're taking you out of DEP, and you can try another branch. But with the nonsense you've done so far, good luck with getting any of them to sign you on. Kevin nods again and stands up and walks out angrily, and outside takes his DEP shirt off and throws it against the door, then gets in his car with Karen still on the phone and then drives off. My friend, I think that went well, but that guy really did have a few issues, and we probably just found them all in 5 minutes. The logistics specialist. Yep, but also reacting to something like that reminds me of my kid, and he knows not to be angry when I say no. Either he was a military brat, or he was just born into money or something. Well, we're taking him out of DEP. We don't need to deal with any of that anymore. He's already troubled enough for not mustering, and he's already wanted 5 or 6 other jobs than Nuke. And he doesn't seem to want to give as much to the Navy as he wants to take. Well then, I am going home. I will see you tomorrow, and have a good one, both of you. Me. Thank you. You both have a good morning, and I'm going to be getting back to my place to sleep as well. And after walking out to our cars, we left, and I successfully got Kevin out of DEP, not meaning to get him out of all the branches, which probably isn't a thing. However, he definitely got what he deserved, if not something lighter, for calling out an enlisted sailor and saying you're an officer in the wrong branch. Thanks, guys.